Hello and welcome to An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about the 2009 science fiction horror film Pandorum. And after human overpopulation depletes Earth's resources, humanity builds an interstellar ark, the Elysium. This is going to carry 60,000 people to a planet that we've dubbed Tanis, which is an Earth-like planet some 100 plus years away in space. And the passengers are therefore placed into hypersleep, because obviously they're not going to survive 100 years otherwise. And a rotating crew wake up every couple of years to maintain the ship, keep it on course, all that kind of thing. 8 years into the journey, the Elysium receives one last message of farewell from Earth, telling them that they are now humanity's last remnant and only hope. Now, some unknown time after that, two members of the flight crew, Corporal Bauer and Lieutenant Peyton, awaken from their hypersleep. Improper emergence from the hypersleep state leaves them both with partial amnesia, as well as possibly suffering from Pandorum, a space-related disorder that causes psychosis when under emotional duress. And emotional duress is going to be a thing they have to deal with because the ship has a number of malfunctions caused by an unstable nuclear reactor. The pair attempt to enter the bridge but are unable to do so. So while Peyton stays behind to access the ship's computer, Bauer uses the ventilation system to search for the reactor. Bauer soon discovers that the ship has been overrun by a group of cannibalistic humanoids that seem drawn to sound. But he does also discover a small number of surviving crew members, and although he is struggling with symptoms of Pandorum, he manages to convince them to band together in an attempt to survive and overcome the invaders, repair the ship, save humanity. No big pressure or anything. So, can the last remnants of humanity survive this latest threat to the species? And for that matter, where did this threat even come from? So the elevator pitch for Pandorum could pretty easily be Aliens meets Event Horizon, which I think is a pretty solid, if intrinsically derivative, concept. I consider Aliens, at least in its theatrical release, I'm less a fan of the special edition, to be one of the finest horror action movies ever made. And half of Event Horizon is a pretty good film, even if the other half is rather less impressive. So with that pitch and a decent cast that includes Dennis Quaid, the producers of this movie probably had reasonably high hopes for its success. Those hopes were not met at all. Pandorum was a critical and commercial flop, and I think that's possibly because it's not terribly good. Let's talk about where and why I think it goes wrong. So the film takes its name from the in-universe space sickness that it has created for plot reasons. This is fitting. The disease has a very central role in the script. The effects and the threat of Pandorum drive a lot of the characters' actions throughout the movie. And it's important, therefore, that the film provide the audience with details of the disease and its symptoms, and also quite a lot of other backstory and in-universe lore that is necessary for the plot, but nothing is quite so relevant as the condition of Pandorum itself. Now look, in starting the film with two characters who don't know what is going on and have partial amnesia, the film's makers have given themselves a really easy justification for characters to discuss the necessary information and provide all those necessary details to the audience. The problem is that they've given themselves perhaps too easy a justification, because the script executes some woefully clumsy exposition dumps fairly early on. It's all very on the nose, and given that it happens at the beginning of the movie, is not a good first impression. I have seen some clumsy exposition dumps in my time. I've rarely seen them this clumsy in this kind of big budget a movie. This was a $30 million plus movie. If you're making a movie out of your garage for a few $1,000s, I can forgive you clumsy storytelling. You should be doing better than this in a movie of this kind of scope. But Pandorum's biggest failing is probably that I never felt it was generating tension. And one of the reasons that it never generated tension was that the script has a recurring habit of having Bowen fall off or through things. This happened so often that I first began to snicker every time it happened, and then I began to actively try to predict how, why, and when he would next find a way to fall off or through a thing. And here's a tip for movie makers. If you want to create a tense horror thriller, maybe don't have your main character make so many pratfalls that taking imaginary bets on his next slapstick misadventure becomes your audience's primary form of entertainment. Now, I've added the unintended question mark on screen because I can't imagine why the filmmakers would have intentionally included these falls for comedic effect. It would undercut the film, but I also find it quite baffling that they didn't notice that it was having a comedic effect. It's absurd. Like 1 or 2 falls at dramatically appropriate moments might be exciting. Bowen seems to fall off something every 10 minutes, to the point where I was left wondering, like, how did this guy live long enough to be here? Is he made of rubber? It's quite silly. Now, it seems that this movie came into its final form through the combination of 2 separate scripts into one movie. The first script had a deep space prison vessel transporting thousands of Earth's deadliest prisoners to another planet. And in that script, the cannibal hunters were prisoners who had gone through an extended process of degeneration. When Impact Pictures, who are perhaps best known for producing the Resident Evil films, picked up that script on option, they gave it to a director who saw similarities between it and a script of his own. His story had 4 astronauts suffering from amnesia, so I'm not sure exactly what the similarities were, other than they're both set in space. But an agreement was made to merge the 2 scripts into a single project. And to my mind, it's not a wholly successful merger. The amnesia angle does help drive the story, and it helps set up the film's one real surprise, but it otherwise feels very much like a plot device, and it is a plot device, but it really feels like one, to keep Bowen in the dark and to justify lots of expository dialogue. And I've already talked about how the exposition turned out. The space sickness Pandorum, meanwhile, feels even more plot devicey. It's very much a bog-standard, narratively convenient movie madness, with those suffering from the condition, or even just fearing that they are suffering from the condition, acting in irrational, self-destructive ways that are irrational and self-destructive in just the right way to drive the plot forward. Look, at the end of the day, I wanted to enjoy Pandorum much more than I actually did. And it's a shame, because I think that the one surprise the movie does offer is a good one, and I'd have liked to have seen it in a better film. And I think the cast probably also, I need to say, the cast deserved a better film than this. So yeah, ultimately, this one was a bit of a disappointment to me. Next time, yet another wildly successful film and toy franchise from Pixar, 2001's Monsters, Inc. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.